Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boys, the Bleacher Boys. We are back. It's Bryan and Gavin, episode like 10 or 11 or 12. I don't know, but we're having fun doing this, and we're back again for another week. Av, man, how you doing, brother?
Good man, good. Spent some time at the beach to start this week off. I'm shedding like a snake right now. It's pretty disgusting, but man, I'm vibing, man. I'm vibing. A lot of stuff going on in the sports world, and be in Nashville this upcoming weekend. And yeah, man, got a lot of stuff going. Feel like I'm going 90 miles an hour. But what about you, man? How's everything with you?
Everything's good, man. We finally getting a little bit more better, consistent weather here, which has been awesome. I actually went golfing with my son and his cousin today, so that was a lot of fun. My first time golfing since 2004, so it's been 21 years. Didn't break anything, didn't snap anything. I did get out there and warm up for like 15 minutes by my car before I even walked in the country club, so that was awesome. But shot a couple pars, I couldn't tell you my actual score, but I was happy with how I played, not having really swung and still trying to like maneuver around all the muscle. And it's as soon as I stepped out of the car, this guy was like, "Damn, brother, you like you can hit about 500 yards with those arms." I was like, not quite, but I was like, I'm just gonna try to keep it straight today. He was like, "F keeping it straight." He's like, "Bombs away." I was like, "Oh, I wish I could, man." So
Hell yeah.
that was fun, and I definitely plan on keeping golf consistent, and even in trying to get in those Thursday scrambles with Rod and TJ, and maybe like late summer if I can get my gamesmanship up. That should be fun.
But yeah, if you hear a drunk, obnoxious dude, that's my father. So anybody watching the pod that knows my father, that's him. He's out there. He's going. Hey, he always tells you he's out there for a good time, not a long time. So he's
Yeah.
gonna have fun with it.
All right, brothers. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. A solid week in sports, not like super anything going on, but man, let's start off with the NBA. I'll just run through some notes and then we can take it where we want to. But the highlight from the week, man, we had the Knicks taking down the Pistons in a great series. Probably one of the two best series, along with the Rockets and Warriors, going to Game 7. And I know that Game 7 is starting in like 1 minute here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure both of us will be catching that once we get off the pod, recording on Sunday about 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. But man, coming out of that, Brunson had a just to win that game for the Knicks. Brunson having a good crossover and pullback, and I don't know if you watched that play, but he actually could have had a wide open two at the elbow for a jump shot, and for him to just stay there and pull the three and really put the dagger in them. Watching that series is a little hard because, like, I want to be a fan of Brunson because we're like literally the same height, but he has that kind of like he's a foul baiter, and to
Mm-hmm.
me that's not very aesthetically pleasing to watch on on basketball in the NBA, and but he has great footwork. He probably, if you want to talk about just pure skill, he's probably the most skilled guy in the NBA right now, just with his feet work, his ability to get off his shot, at least from the offensive side. I can't think of anybody who's truly more skilled than Brunson right now. His ability to, I think I saw a graphic where he already has 8 40-point games in his playoff career, but he's only been like the man for 3 years in New York because he was a role player when he was with Luca and Dallas for all those years, and probably only getting 8 to 10, 8 to 12 shots back then. Anything you want to say on that series before we move on to one of the other two?
No, man, I thought it was a good series. Brunson, you say he is kind of a foul baiter. It kind of fits that New York market. They love it. They love screaming for the fouls. So he fits right in right there. But no, man, I see them fizzling out, if you want me to be honest with you. It's tough to play in that Tom Thibodeau offense. I mean, Tibbs is just he demands a lot, and to make a playoff run, we're talking about an age and generation that they don't believe. It's not common. These guys aren't built for that. I would like to see a good series. Of course they're matched up with my Celtics, so I'd like to see a good series. It's going to be really interesting, but nah, man, I think that the Pistons are really close. We've talked about it before. Cade Cunningham has a chance to be a real superstar in this league, and yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what happens in the years to come with the Pistons, and then the series with the Knicks and the Celtics.
Yeah, I personally don't give the Knicks much of a chance, But it's weird because I saw Nick Wright say this earlier in the week, I think on Thursday, that all of the moves that the Knicks made this offseason, and they made some big moves, bringing in Bridges, bringing in, and giving up all those picks for Bridges, getting Cat in a trade for Julius Randle, which that Julius Randle has worked great for Minnesota this year, giving up DiVincenzo. So they built their team literally to handle the Celtics. And I think so. The Celtics went 4-1 against the Magic, but at least
Yeah.
three or four of those games were close, like close-ish going into the end.
Yeah.
The Magic matched up actually much better than the Knicks will because the Magic were the best team in the league in defending the three and keeping teams from even attempting. They had the least amount of threes given up and the worst percentage. And obviously, the Celtics led the league in most. I think they were second in the league in taking highest field goal percentage behind Cleveland this year, but the Knicks are one of the worst teams at defending the three. And so I think the Celtics are just going to light them up. And I saw in the Celtics swept them in the regular season, but in 3 of those 4 games, the fourth one was closest towards the end of the season. I think it was like one of the last games of the season. But the first 3, the point differential was like 16 and a half points a game. And in the first 2 games, the Celtics shot 49% from 3 and then like 48% from 3. If that happens, brother, they don't have much of a chance unless the Celtics just get cold. And I think the Celtics are going to be, 1, they've had time off, and 2, the Magic were so physical and got into them, and they still were able to get their numbers that they're just going to have a field day with the Knicks. So I really don't foresee the Knicks having a whole lot of a chance to keep up with the Celtics. But moving on to one of the series that was very entertaining, but was not as close as you would think it would be, was the Timberwolves knocking off the Lakers. They took them out in 5, and I put up a meme, or I put up a status in the tweet, I think after game 1, because the Timberwolves took game 1, where I said Spider-Man, Ant-Man, Batman, T-Wolves in 5, and I was able to repost that after they took that last game. I think it was back in Minnesota. But the thing about that Lakers series, and I'll let you chime in here in a second, was the 2 biggest things that stuck out to me was when the T-Wolves won game 5, Ant-Man shot like, I think he was 5 for 18 from the field and only had like 15 points in the game. And for them to get blown out in that last game with Anthony Edwards playing so badly is even more of an indictment on the Lakers. And 2, one thing I've seen a lot since Wednesday was a lot of Nico Harrison was right, because seeing Luka, I think Luka gave up. I think Luka was whoever Luka was guarding on the floor, which was multiple people. They shot 63% on Luka. And it's just, you can't, LeBron James doesn't play defense as good as he used to. I mean, he's 40 years old. Luka doesn't, and they don't have a big man. And it's just going forward, the Lakers is like, what they should do is, honestly, LeBron's probably definitely going to play 1 more year, but what they should do is actually construct a team to build around Luka and fit his strengths and weaknesses. But LeBron is still going to be there. LeBron is still probably going to take max money. So it's like, how do you work around the margins to bring in a bunch of veteran guys to be able to do that? And I just don't see them being able to do that. And JJ Redick just purely got out-coached in that series as well. But he's a rookie head coach, so I'm not going to knock him hard, even though I did see a lot of people bring up that at Duke and in the NBA, JJ Redick often got the tight butt in big games and towards the end of the series, kind of like how James Harden does. So will that be his identity as a coach? I guess only time will tell. Man, what were your takeaways from that series?
Yeah, no, I mean, you saw him keep attacking Luka as far as the Timberwolves go on offense. He's a liability. Equate it to baseball. If you're going to be that bad on defense, dude, you better go out there and throw up a 55, 60 ball every single night. You know, it's like an old saying that coaches used to say all the time, and, you know, we've said it before, but, you know, I can afford, you know, some errors on defense if you're coming in and you're having, you know, a pump here, a double here, and you're driving in runs. But if you're not doing that and you're having to share touches, and there's a lot more that plays into it on the basketball side, but it brings me to say Luka's a liability. Do I think Nico Harrison was right in that regard? Yes. Do I think it was a bad trade? Yes, because he had already built a team in Dallas that was defensive minded, that was ready to rock and roll with Luka. I mean, you saw what they did last year. I see that, and then at the same time, I see what you talked about with the Lakers. They're just you always hear, oh, it's the Lakers' year, this, that, and the other, but they're always like 2 pieces away. They're not 1 piece away, they're always 2 pieces away. I don't foresee them. They're going to have to make a big splash in the offseason, which they could go and do. If you want my hot take, I think they would have been better off going into that series with Anthony Davis still on their team, and I think they might have given the Timberwolves a little bit better run for their money than what they did. I love the fact that Ant-Man was talking that shit after, talk your shit. I mean, absolutely, rightfully so, just because of the fact that everybody counted them out. You got Stephen A., Shannon Sharp. I mean, everybody counted them out. And it's funny, you bring up a point talking about the Knicks previously, and then, piggybacking off of that and talking about this, because there was a trade there with, Julius Randle and Karl Anthony Towns. You saw how quickly the Karl Anthony Towns trade worked for the Knicks just because of Josh Hart and DiVincenzo having that Villanova connection. And I remember early on in the season when they made that trade in Julius Randle, a lot of people were saying, oh, the Timberwolves can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. They have figured it out, and it just takes time. I think that the Knicks got, they had a lot of gel. They gelled really quickly, and the Timberwolves gelled later, and now the Timberwolves are really hitting their stride. So that's kind of my takeaways. I think the Timberwolves, I don't know who they're going to match up with. I would like to see them match up with the Rockets for the simple reason I think it's going to be a better series as far as basketball goes. If they match up with the Warriors, you're going to have a lot of headlines, and it's what does basketball want? What does the NBA want? And my conspiracy theorists, I think sometimes there's a little bit of hand in that, who are they going to match up with? But yeah, so I think, I mean, that's kind of my takeaways from the series. And I don't think LeBron's playing another year. I'm going to kind of contradict you on that one. I think this is it for him.
Yeah, and you have your LeBron excuse makers and Brian apologists, but it was like you saw in the play where I'm not going to bash LeBron too much, but I've gotten in a lot of Twitter beefs over the past week over LeBron. It's just fact stuff. But the one thing I thought was interesting was he had that foul on DiVincenzo where he hit the deck, and then it was like, oh, this is where he had a grade 2 MCL sprain, and he played the rest of the game. And then you see him after the game, he's limping and he's getting held up, and it's like, dude, LeBron bounced right up. And this is coming from somebody who had an MCL. I tore my MCL and PCL actually at an East Cobb tournament, and I actually played the rest of the games. I do believe a MCL, you definitely can. It's not nearly as dramatic as an ACL tear, because I tore mine on my first at bat on one of my 6 career bunts, and I was safe, but the pitcher was covering. He tripped over the bag, and I tried to hop over him, landed on my knee. Or I didn't know it because I actually hit a double. I hit 2 doubles in the game after that, and looked down and scored on both of them as well. And just woke up the next day and couldn't move. But I just always find it interesting how when LeBron wins, he's the greatest of all time. And when he loses, he's old and injured, and what do you expect the 40-year-old to do? And just that narrative of storyline is really getting overplayed, and that part of LeBron I'm ready for it to be out. If we could just get LeBron where we could love and enjoy him, I wouldn't mind him being in the league. But with LeBron and the GOAT talk and the accolades and all that, I think that's what ruins it for a lot of non-LeBron lovers. But moving on to the last series we'll touch on before we get into a couple of narrative plays here was the Nuggets taking out the Clippers. And I think this series was honestly less the Nuggets being good because they've been good. Jamal Murray played great. Aaron Gordon had his moments. He had that game-winning dunk. Russ had a couple moments. Russ also had a couple lowlights in the series as well. You get the whole Russell Westbrook experience, but I love that he is very self-aware of what he is and who he is, and he just leans into that. And Jokic is just still probably the best basketball player in the league right now. But I think it's just more about the Clippers because you have this enigma with Kawhi, where it's like when Kawhi is healthy and playing, he's probably a top 10, pushing to be a top 5 basketball player in the game. But he's hardly ever really healthy. Then you get this James Harden, who's inarguably been one of the top all-time NBA offensive forces by any metric that we've ever seen. Some people even argue he's kind of been like a Steve Nash and how he's innovated and changed the game, even though he's a little heliocentric. James Harden in his last 4 game sevens has scored like nine. I think it was like 9, 9, 7, and 8 points. And his meltdowns in game sevens are something that should be studied by like Harvard or Princeton. Because they're weird, man. But it's just crazy how such a great player can go so cold when the games matter the most. And you see other guys like Brunson and Ant-Man and Jason Tatum who has this great clutch gene that they're dropping whatever is needed to and doing whatever is needed to win those game sevens. But the question I want to ask you is I saw this on Twitter and I thought it was interesting because we know the Clippers have always been the little brother to LA in LA. And I saw a guy say, should the Clippers rebrand and rename their team to get away from, because they're already in a new stadium. So they no longer, as of this year, they no longer share a stadium with the Lakers as they have their whole career. But it's like, at this point, should they just rebrand their entire team and franchise to kind of get away from the Clipper history? And maybe that'll be something that catapults them because they're another team that they just can't get out of the way going back to the Blake Griffin, CP3, DeAndre Jordan, Lob City days. It was like first round exit, second round exit, first round exit, first round exit after being the top 2, 3, 4 seed year in, year out and being an absolute highlight reel. They can't win the games that matter, and that continues to go. So what do you think about that question?
Yeah, I think that's our baseball superstition in us, if you want me to be honest with you. So I don't know. I mean, they've always been little brother. I don't know if I would like to see them rebrand as much as I would maybe like to see them move. I'm more for like, hey, let's take them back to Seattle. Or not take them back to Seattle, but let's take them to Seattle. Let your LA fans be your LA fans. Let them be Laker homers and let it be done. But, I mean, yeah.
That
Rebrand
part
would
would
be
be out of
cool.
the question though. But they just built that $3 billion
Yeah.
stadium.
Yeah, so I mean, if they did if you're asking me rebrand or no rebrand, I guess I would say yes. And you've seen them try to do it with a new logo this year, but do you bring back one of the historic logos? Because at one point in time, weren't they like the Braves or something in like the ABA? Weren't they something else? They were something else.
They
At one point in time, they weren't in LA. They were not
yeah
in LA. Ever since they've
yeah
been in LA, they've been the Clippers. But they've also always played in Staples Center, Crypto, whatever it is now. I've always known it as Staples. But yeah, I mean, if they rebranded, what would you rebrand to, and would it really matter at the end of the day?
true
Are you looking up what they were before?
yeah.
They were something in the ABA, and I can't remember what they were. I know they were something else though, but it was like the same.
Oh
Like
yeah,
we're
they were the Buffalo Braves.
okay. That's what I
Yeah,
thought. Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
San Diego Clippers. So yeah, I knew it was a Brave, but I couldn't remember what team in Buffalo makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if they did rebrand, and plus, like, I don't know, man. I sit here and I watch some of these teams. Like, I just want different colors. Like, give me something cool. Give me
Yeah,
something different. Give me
yeah,
something vibrant. Give me something that stands out. Because there's so many, navy blue and red, navy blue and red, navy blue and red. And it's like, dude, it's so played out. Like, give me something new. You're in LA. Be the forefront. Be the leaders in it. But yeah, I mean, that is, I think, superstition. Now, if I'm the coach of them, I'm like, absolutely, let's rebrand. I'm tired of this shit. It's like the curse of the Bambino, but it's just the curse of the Clippers.
yeah. All right, last NBA question, and we'll move on. But if the Warriors drop Game 7 versus the Rockets, there will be no more OGs left in the playoffs. Steph will be out. He's the last one standing. LeBron will be out. KD didn't even make the playoffs. Kawhi will be out if you want to put him in that group. Jimmy Butler will also be out. I mean, he's 35 years old. I think he's more in that group than definitely in a younger group. And all the rest of them are retired other than CP3, and he's a free agent this year, probably looking for another place to play. So Steph loses one. Do the OGs have any chance to ever get back? Do you see a scenario path where any of them can get back to another NBA Finals? And two, has the torch finally been passed to the next swing of guys, and who do you think is that next swing of guys? And I'm gonna put Giannis and Jokic in their own little pocket there because they've already won MVPs, they've already won a title, and so there's a group of guys who haven't won MVPs and haven't won multiple titles. So 2 questions: are the OGs done? Do you see any of them having a chance to make it to a finals? And then two, is the torch finally being passed to the next group of guys, and who are those guys in your opinion?
Yeah, so there's one guy that I could see making it back, and it would be KD, and it would have to be a young team, and it'd have to be the right fit. I'm trying to remember. I saw one, I think, on TikTok or Twitter, and they said it would be a good fit, and I really liked it. I was like, damn, that would be a solid fit, and I cannot remember who it was.
So I've seen KD to the Rockets
Okay, maybe.
because they have a young team, they have picks, and they could put a package to the Suns that would replenish their stock and make it like an even trade. And the Rockets aren't like paying any big money guys yet. And then I've seen a scenario where like the Heat would work for KD as well with the salary cap, Jimmy being gone, the picks, and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, the one I tell you that I would like to see, I guess for nostalgia reasons, and if they get them, they're a contender off the bat. They're my favorite. Would be OKC. Go back to OKC, mend some broken hearts. It gives you another scoring option. If he goes to OKC, watch out. But that would be the only one that I would say, yes, absolutely, I could still see a path for him. I think this year was Curry's kind of last hoorah.
Yeah.
I think it's time. And I think if you were to ask Steph Curry one-on-one, I think he's more getting to the point where he'd rather play some golf, enjoy family time. He's had success, man. He knows what it is. So I see him leaving, or not leaving, but I don't see him making another path. He'll probably play for like 1 or 2 more years. But the only one I could see would be KD. And then the torch has definitely been passed, in my opinion. And I think your next group that's coming in are your SGAs, your Ant-Mans, I mean, I know earlier you said Paulo's a little too young. I don't think so. I think he could very easily go into that group. Those would be my guys. Those would be my guys that I'm like, okay, the torch is being passed. I think you could put Tatum in that same category with Giannis and Jokic because he's already won one. And I think, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but I think he's kind of in that. I put Giannis and I put Jokic in that kind of like Kobe bridge gap. Like a lot of people forget, Kobe was really good, like as far as like GOAT debate and everything else, but he was kind of that bridge. He was that bridge between MJ and LeBron. So it's like, they're kind of in that bridge period, and that's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, I think the torch has by far been passed. I don't see any of them getting one, and I even think if KD does go to the Thunder or anybody else and they do make a run and he gets it, I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like the old heads are still here. Like, no, it's going to be he's a role player, he's going in to get buckets, and that's about it.
Yeah. KD was going to be my only one out of that group of guys because, like, I don't know, I really don't see Jimmy Butler going anywhere like next year. Steph is not going anywhere because he makes too much money. His family's there, and he's not going anywhere. I still see some people wanting LeBron and Steph to match up from 1 year, and it's like, for what? You're gonna have a 41 and a 39-year-old guy who don't play defense very well, just try to out offense everybody. We saw that with the Lakers in like 2004 when they got Karl Malone and Gary Payton and all these old guys who could score a lot of points but couldn't play defense anymore, and that was an epic failure as well. I agree with everything you said. I would put Tatum in that group with Giannis and Jokic, especially because at this point he probably has a 25% chance of winning the title, which is a very good chance. I do think they have to get past Cleveland, but if they make to the NBA Finals, then obviously yes, it's a 50-50 proposition because there's only 2 teams. But if he gets to the finals, I really don't know who I would pick because I do think OKC is going to come out of the West. I just think they're just too dominant. Defense is too good. They draw too many fouls. They shoot good enough from the perimeter. Have an X factor like Chet Holmgren who can stretch the floor and block shots, and he's like the 4th option on the team. You got guys like a Caruso matches up great with like a Peyton Pritchard. They're like the same kind of guy being the 6th man. So it's like those 2 teams. We saw them play in the regular season, but those 2 teams like pretty much cancel each other out when you start going down like the first 7 guys in the rotation because Chet is just a younger version of what Kristaps is. And it's like, but I do think, and I do agree with you that Ant-Man, who is 24, turning 25 this year, who was the other one you said that we talked about?
SGA.
Yeah, SGA. And SGA is older because he's already 27, so he's only 1 year younger than Tatum.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people forget that because he popped late. And another thing about that, the Clippers, you could argue in the NBA, made the worst trade of all time, trading SG. I think it was SGA and um, um, Danilo Gallinari and like 7 first-round draft picks
Oh
for
yeah.
Paul George.
Oh, yeah, no, dude, I'm right there. Right when you said you could argue, I knew exactly where you were going because I agree with you.
Yeah,
I mean, the Clippers could be the Thunder right now and have the ability to pay everybody.
yeah,
Like, and that's what's crazy. And you think about all these scenarios, but like, they had that chance and they gave it up for Paul George,
yeah.
who's not even with the team anymore.
No, really, if you were to ask a 12-year-old kid who Paul George is right now, he's more synonymous as a podcaster than being a good NBA player because of the amount of injuries that he has. I mean, he's been podcasting for a month and a half because he messed up his knee or leg again at the end of the season. Anywho, back on topic, and I do think I have Paolo ahead of Cade, and I think a lot of people do. And I think when the smoke clears at the end of this offseason, and Paolo's 1 year younger, he was drafted number 1 the year after Cade was.
Hmm.
But I think the Magic are going to be the team that acquires enough help around Paolo and Franz, where I don't foresee how the Pistons are built because they already added Dennis Schroeder this year that helped solidify their team. And the Magic haven't done that. They tried it with KCP. He was a bum in the playoffs. That was one of the worst transactions of the offseason. But I think the Magic getting a Trae Young, getting an Anthony Simons, I think this would be crazy. Like, I do think John needs to get out of Memphis. I think he'd be great to stay in Memphis, but I also think he needs to get out of Memphis. But I've seen at least 5 or 6 people, like in sports media on TV, say Ja to Orlando.
Yeah, he needs to take his ass to damn Utah where ain't shit happens out there, and he just needs to go chill out and go shoot his guns in the damn woods and just be done with it.
I don't even know. I don't even know if going to Utah would be great because then he might try to become like legit crime kingpin out there.
Hey, let him do it, bro. Ain't nobody saying shit in Utah. They got the Jazz, and that's about it. Let him do that. He can go hang around the hockey players and just go butt heads with them.
All right, let's move on. So with that being said, getting into you saw that the MLB grades came out from the
Yes.
first month of the season. So I'm going to let you run away with that. You give us some of the top grades and some of the worst grades, and then we'll talk about that from there.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, we'll just start with the A's. You know, the teams that got A's. So the Mets, of course, being at the top of the NL East, they got an A for the first month. The Tigers got an A for the first month, being at the top of the AL Central. The Giants, kind of a shocker to me, just because they're third in the NL West, and we'll get to that in a second, but they also got an A. And then you had the Cubs and the Padres, the last 2 teams, finishing out with an A minus. Padres being ahead of the Giants. And then, you know, you got your middle of the pack, your B's, your C's. Of course, you know, you got your teams that you would expect in like the C's and the D's. And then you get down to the F's, and you got the Pirates having an F with a young core and Paul Skeens and Oniel Cruz. And then the Orioles, this was a shocker to me. The Orioles received an F. They're saying that the vibes are not high there. I don't see how it's not. You got a young core, but the Orioles received an F. And then no shocker to anybody that follows baseball, the Rockies with an F minus, lowest possible grade. So yeah, man, the standouts there to me are definitely the Giants getting an A. As well as the Orioles just flat out getting an F. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. I even pulled up the standings. You know, and this is what I said when I said we'll talk about that in a second, and I think you'll agree with me. The NL West is by far the best division in baseball this year. You have 4 out of 5 teams over 500, that being including the Dodgers at a 697 win percentage, who are just tearing everybody up. The Padres having a 667, and then the Giants with a 618, and the Diamondbacks with a 515. The Mets having a 647 coming out of the NL East, which I thought would be a lot stronger. I did not see them at the top of the division after the first month. If you had asked me a month ago, I would have told you absolutely not. You're smoking crack. But what do I know? So yeah, man, tell me what you kind of think about that, and then if you want anybody else's, if you're curious about anybody else's grades.
Well, I'm kind of with you. You just said the Mets. I actually expected the Mets to finish first or second in their division, but I thought they were going to start slow. I thought with the acquisition of Juan Soto and just when guys get that big of money, there's something that comes up either, and it may be intentional. I don't know. That's one thing I don't have experience with is making a lot of money for playing the sport of baseball. Unfortunately, so but because even when Bryce Harper got his contract, it was like he got to a little bit to a slow start that next season with the Phillies, but everything ended up running out because I think they had a good playoff run that first year, and everybody kind of forgot about his slow start. But Pete Alonso like almost didn't sign there, and he's been one of the best sluggers and just hitters overall in the MLB this year. So good on the Mets. Didn't quite see them. Well, I didn't see them having this good of a start, but if they can have this good of a start, it'll give them a little breathing room. A team. What was the Braves' grade? Because the Braves playing so crap. This was not something that I foresaw coming. I have Chris Sale on my fantasy team, and he's like 1-3 on the year and been struggling out of the gate. And it's just been brutal, but I'm hoping he could turn it around.
Yeah, they ended up receiving a D, and a lot of those talks being because of Chris Sale starting out so poorly, Acuna being injured, and then Iglesias not being that good out of the pen, as well as the notable one, Jerkson Profar getting busted and a 50 or 80 game suspension.
Yeah. Another team that's been solid this year that I just kind of didn't know what to expect. I would like to know their grade is the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, no, the Mariners have been solid. They actually ended up pulling out let me see here because I was just on them, a B+.
Yeah.
So them and the Yankees ended up pulling out B+. The Yankees, being the Yankees, they get to play in their home park twice. I'm a little bit biased. I think it's bullshit. Whatever, it's just me. I think if it was anybody else, they would have been like, no, you got to play at another park, but they're going to let the Yankees be the Yankees. So, yeah, and Sam, you can come at me for that. I don't care. Give me a shout because I don't know if Sam peeps in, but you can tell Sam from the gym to go and listen to me talk shit on the Yankees.
Yeah, he peeps in.
Yeah, so the Mariners with a B+, man. The Athletics also got a B, which, by the way, kind of getting off into the weeds here. Have you seen their shortstop prospect that they've called up this year, the Jacob Wilson kid?
I've seen him just once.
Yeah, but have you seen his swing and unorthodox? I still don't think he has a walk or a strikeout on the year.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking it up right now. Hold on. So through 92 at-bat. No, hold on. Sorry. Through 129 at-bats, he has 6 strikeouts with 5 walks, and he's hitting .333 on the year.
That's crazy.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, I wasn't a strikeout guy, so, to see that, I'm like, dude, that is nutty. Like, I had more walks. I mean, of course, I didn't play at this level, but I had more walks. But 6 strikeouts, dude, and 129 at bats is absolutely freaking nutty.
Yeah. I led every team in college in batting average and slugging. I led pretty much my whole team in everything. I think one year I didn't lead in steals. My sophomore year, I also missed first 3 weeks season with an ankle injury. There was 2 out of the 3 years I got out hit, and it was because I had a 2-to-1 walk ratio, 2-to-1 walk to strikeout ratio. So I would have, I actually kind of had a lot of strikeouts. I had 20 plus strike every year. But my freshman year, I had 45 walks in 47 games, which is insane. And then my sophomore year, I think I had 30-something walks. And then my junior year, I want to say I had another 30-something walks. And I count hit by pitches as walks as well.
Yeah.
I almost had double-digit hit by pitches every year I was in college as well. So I didn't have as many hits as I always wanted to have, but because I had so many at-bats taken from me from walks. But I was at the best batting average. So that is insane to think about putting the ball in play. Because I was the type of guy, if I put the ball in play, it was literally, I had a 60% chance that it was going to fall for a hit if you look at the percentages of how things worked out.
We get it. You were a stud. We get it, man. We get it. You were a stud. You could hit.
But just thinking about that guy to have that many at-bats and have so few walks and strikeouts is just insane. That's just the complete opposite player of what I was. But I can't even think of a guy who I ever played with that, maybe a travel ball, that just put the ball in play that much. But having that kind of contact rate is obviously a great skill to have.
Yeah, no, it's insane. But yeah, no, we got off into the weeds. I mean, we can talk about a little bit of these middle tier grades. You know, the Reds coming out with a C plus, not having a bad year. The Phillies only getting a C, kind of. And here's one, and then we'll move on. And this is kind of a question that I've thought about to myself a lot. But Bobby Witt with the Royals. How much longer do you think Bobby Witt? Do you think Bobby Witt is a lifetime guy? Do you think he's a one-team guy, or do you think Bobby Witt ends up going in free agency and playing the market? And do you think he leaves?
Well, didn't he already sign a team friendly deal in offseason? You sure
I don't know
did.
if he did. He?
I think he did, like Vlad. I think. Let me look it up. I think he
I.
signed.
It must have been like low key because I don't remember hearing a lot about it.
Yeah, he signed an 11-year, $288 million contract.
Okay, so then leads me to my next question. So if you would have said yes, you see him being a lifer, do you see Kansas City going out and making some moves coming up, or do you think that they'll try to build from within?
If they make a move, it'll be a move like, and they don't even have a player like this, but it'd be a move like the Braves made a couple of years, like Freddie Freeman for Matt Olson.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's going to be like a straight up move. I don't think they don't have the. I know they don't have the budget to bring in a big budget free agent. So if they do, it's going to be like an older slugger, like the Yankees getting Paul Goldschmidt, who I kind of called him was going to have a great year by the Yankees with the Yankees, hitting behind Judge. But it's going to be a move around the margins where they get an older slugger that has a little bit in the tank and give them one or two good seasons. But I really think they're going to have to stick to their franchise business model. And the way they reached the World Series last year was great draft and development and let those guys all peak at the same time. So I think it's just going to be a couple more years of drafting and developing guys, and you hope they all hit their stride. Because Bobby is what? He's not 25 yet.
No, he's 24, I believe. I believe he just turned 24, if memory serves me right.
It's like
I'm about to tell you.
you want the team to be hitting their stride by the time Bobby is 26 to 30 years old, when he still has all the juice left. So that's going to be how they get there. And I also don't see them, unless their team just tanks in a couple of years, them trading Bobby Witt away, because he is so beloved. And like, he's going to be outside of was it Brooks Robinson, the third baseman from the Royals?
No, George Brett.
George Brett, yeah. Other than George Brett, he's probably going to be like the second greatest Royal to ever live. So I just don't see them, and him taking that team-friendly deal, kind of like Ryan Braun did with the Milwaukee Brewers, when he could have left and got way more money and played on a better team. I just think Bobby Witt's career is going to go on the trajectory of like Ryan Braun. The Brewers, when they had Ryan Braun, if they don't lose Prince Fielder, probably could have made 2 World Series and 3 or 4 NL championships if they could have kept that whole team intact. But the Brewers, being a small market team, couldn't.
Yeah, it's just something that I've pondered for a little bit, because I know Bobby Witt is, in my opinion, he's one of the best players in the game right now.
Well,
And
I actually had a question. I was actually going to ask you, should we just go ahead and start Skeens Watch?
Cool.
Because it's like he's going to pitch whatever the minimum amount of time before arbitration and all that comes up for him. It's like, where's Skeens going to land in, another 2 years?
Yeah, and if you noticed the other day, the Cubs took him back to back to back with, I think it was Dansby, Tucker, and Seiya Suzuki.
Okay.
Yeah, I would second that. I would 100% jump on Skeens Watch.
Yeah, and I think it's way too early. Probably won't know till about the year before, but he's definitely, whenever he's due to hit free agency, he's going to be Garrett Cole, Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling level deal, going to he's going to get the money and instantly go to a contender type team.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt.
And be
There's
there.
no doubt.
Yeah.
I'll quit watching the MLB though if he goes to the Dodgers. I'll stop. I'll be done with it.
I probably would be at that point. Like,
Yeah.
that would be where because the NBA in the last 15 or so years has like vetoed a couple of NBA trades, like CP3 to the Lakers.
Yeah.
But I think the MLB, if they have that power, I don't know if they do in their CBA, but Skeens to the Dodgers, if they're still even remotely close to how they're constructed, the MLB would have to intervene, and that would ruin that would turn more people off than make baseball more exciting.
Yeah.
All right, man. Last section, NFL. We had the draft last week. We've gotten through all the draft talk, all the Shador talk, all the other talk. But let's kind of do of our own grades. We're not going to give them like an actual letter grade, just do pass or fail. So I'm not going to, you don't have to, you can just tell me the couple teams that you think got a pass, did a good job. We're not going to say just the draft. We're going to just say their whole offseason. And then if you have any teams that you're just like, man, they've really bombed and failed this offseason, you can give me as many of those as you want as well. I'll let you give me all of yours, and then I'll go ahead and give mine.
Okay, yeah. So my three passes, the teams that I liked, as bad as I hate to say it, number one is going to be the Bears. I thought they did a good job in the draft. OC, I think that they're building, and I think if Caleb Williams does not have a good year, it's official. He's a bust. I've already put my bust stamp on him. That's just me. I had it on him before he even got selected and his name called 1 of 1. So that would be the team that I would say they get a pass. I like what they have done. The other team that I would say would be Green Bay. I think they made some really good draft choices. I think that you might start to see them coming back to what they used to be. So I think, and I still have stock in Jordan Love personally. I think he's pretty good. I don't think he's a bust like people think he was. Last year, injuries, I think, hindered his season. But I like Green Bay. The other one, and some people are going to hate me saying this, but the other one's the Eagles. Of course, you're coming off of a Super Bowl championship. Not only that, but the NFL and these front offices continue to let the Eagles get these defensive studs year in, year out at the back end of the draft, and they wonder why they can't score on them. Well, dumbasses, you better draft the guys that they're drafting sooner. So those would be my three teams that I'm like, okay, I can buy a lot of stock into, as much as I hate to say the Bears, but I like what they did. And then my fail is the Saints with Tyler Shuck, big thumbs down, boo, don't like it. I just don't know what the Saints are really doing anymore down there. Who knows? They're going to be at the bottom of the division with the worst division in the NFL year in, year out. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I think it's going to be interesting. I think there are some teams that there's some teams that I could have mentioned, but those are kind of like the four that really stand out to me. But I would love to hear yours. I'm really interested to get your take on this one.
Well, I agree with you on the Bears. Them getting Luther Burden the third is that's just like fool's gold. Like they struck gold with that one because you pair him with DJ Moore and Luther Burden. And it's like, man, they got Loveland. Like you got the shiftiest tight end and a top 2 or 3 prospect at wide receiver. That's nutty. Ben Johnson being there, it's like he's going to. I put less of my trust in Caleb being great and more of my trust in Ben Johnson making this offense foolproof to where the Bears just have to be good on offense. That's kind of how I see it. I think the verdict is still out on Caleb. We'll see. I'm a believer of him, but I'm even more of a believer that he's getting an offensive-minded, young, innovative coach and not having to deal with Eberflus, who we saw the game was just way too big for him.
So let me ask this question. You bring up a great point, and we're not going to get off in the weeds because I still want to hear yours. Ben Johnson makes this offense foolproof. Will it be an offense that... So I think of it like this. The Chiefs aren't the Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs offense aren't the Chiefs offense without Patrick Mahomes. The Bills, without Josh. The Ravens without Lamar. So you get what I'm getting at. Is it going to be an offense to where you think that it is interchangeable of who you have at quarterback? And could you see that offense getting to a point where they go, dude, we're going in a different direction. Caleb Williams isn't doing it anymore.
All right, so I'm glad you asked that question because I think this will continue to be the Bears have built their team how all of these successful NFC teams have built their teams for the last 10 years. You look at the Niner teams that have made it to the Super Bowl. You look at the Bucks teams that made it to the Super Bowl, and you look at the Eagles teams. All three of those rosters, those years, were probably the number 1 or number 2 best rosters in the NFL that year. And that's just how NFC teams are built. Saying that, if you took any of the top 6 AFC, all those teams would trade their quarterback. They would at least pick up the phone call if any of the top 6 AFC quarterbacks were available for trade. So that's how I'll paint that.
Okay.
I do think Caleb will be better than what a Purdy, because if you just watch the game, Purdy, he was a better QB prospect and a better thrower of the ball and improviser than Purdy, Garoppolo, Jalen Hurts. We're just talking about throwing the ball. His escapability is actually pretty good, even in NFL. Jared Goff, like, he's been a better prospect throwing the ball than all of those guys have been at any point in their career. Even Jared Goff in that Detroit Lions offense, because we've seen Jared Goff go complete for not whole season, but for a couple games, just go complete like dumpster fire, throwing 4 or 5 interceptions in one game. So I think Caleb, if they build the team how they're seeming like they're going to build, they're going to have a to have a complete roster. You got to have a great defense, and I don't think their defense is quite there yet. And it just leads me to my next point that I think last year, because I put a lot of money on the Packers to win that division, and I think I was 1 year early. And I don't like to like double down on bets, but I think I'm going to put that same amount of money on the Packers this year because I think I was 1 year early. Love dealt with a couple of injuries, starting with that game in Brazil. But I think the Packers are going to be the one that come out victorious in that division this year based on what they've added in their offseason. I think Love is going to have a good comeback year, and Josh Jacobs is going to be another top 3, top 4, top 5 rusher again for that team. And the thing is if Josh Jacobs stays healthy through the year for 15 or 16 games, that helps out that team more than anything. Because if they're going to get into where Jordan Love is throwing the ball 50 times a game, he's going to throw picks. But if you can get it closer to 38 to 40 and Josh is getting 25, 28 touches, they're going to win that division, by a game or two.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. So give me your 4.
All right. So my past grades are the Patriots. I'm coming around. Growing up, I used to be a bells and whistles guy. I used to love get the flashy running back, get the flashy wide. You gotta have a quarterback, so we'll take them out. But you gotta get the flashy cornerback, the flashy wide receiver. But now I'm like, man, the trenches really do matter. And I know a lot of part of that is one of Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl. He had one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history that's made it to the Super Bowl. And the 2 Super Bowls he's lost he got battered down by defensive lines that just completely manhandled their defensive line. So I'm a big believer of that. If you have the trenches set up on both sides of the ball, you start out the year set up to make a run at the playoff, no matter what team you are in the NFL. And it looks like they have done that on paper. I give and they got Mike Vrabel as a head coach in the offseason, so this is the offseason grade. So I give the Patriots a pass. I give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a pass because I look at Chris Godwin went down with a terrible injury this year. Well, who was their first round draft pick? Ohio State wide receiver. You look at Ohio State wide receivers from the last 5 years, like 90% of them have hit, and they're some of the best wide receivers in the game. And you hear the kid has one of the best. He was one of the best interviews and best character guys that has come through the NFL draft process in a long time. So like high character guy, high producer guy. He gets to learn from Baker, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin when hopefully he comes back healthy. But they made a bunch of other moves in their draft that I have to give them a pass as well, and they make another playoff run. And then who did I say was my other team? It's honestly a toss up, both in the same division between the Broncos and the Chargers, because I look at what the Broncos did, bringing in like Evan Ingram to get a tight end. They didn't have a tight end last year. They drafted a running back. They added quality pieces around an already young team. But I had to give it to the Chargers just based on they already had their trenches set up, and then they go get arguably the second best running back in the draft, Mary Hampton, who can catch the ball at the backfield great. He's very explosive. Honestly, I think he is like Jonathan Taylor, just a younger Jonathan Taylor. I look at his build. He's about the same height, same size, same explosiveness to catch the ball, can run the ball. So if he ends up being what Jonathan Allen is, what Jonathan Taylor is for the Colts, like that whole division the whole AFC has their hands full with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh going forward. So those are my 3 past teams: the Patriots, the Buccaneers, and the Chargers. As much as I want to hate to admit that. And my team that I failed, we kind of talked about this before the podcast, just because back-to-back years they probably had the silliest first round they possibly have. it's got to be the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
And that goes without saying. I actually think the Falcons with Michael Penix and the guy that they did pick can and will make the playoffs this year. Whether that's winning that division or just coming in as a wild card. NFC can be very wishy-washy from year to year. And we always know every year there are 4 new playoff teams every year in both conferences. So you're going to get 8 new playoff teams coming in this year. And it's like, I think the Falcons could be the team that Michael Penix with 1 full year offseason under center learning and being the number 1 guy. I saw enough last year where I think they could make the jump to win that division, and maybe it's the Bucks coming in as a wild card team.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on all of yours. There's another team, man, that I think I guess it's just because they haven't been relevant, kind of went by the wayside, and that was the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Going through a lot of draft grades, the Seahawks got the number 2 spot for draft grades with let's see what they got overall. Hold on, I'm trying to get down here now because I just had it up. They ended up getting and they had a lot of picks.
Yeah.
I mean, they ended up having, 1 in the first, they took a guard. Then they had 2 in the second, and they took a safety and a tight end. Then they had 1 in the third, and they took Milrow. Who knows how he'll pan out. And then they had 3 in the fifth, 1 in the sixth, and then 3 in the seventh. And we know that franchises are built in that, 5 through 7 kind of rounds. But yeah, man, it's going to be really interesting to see, some of these picks where they pan out. I'm really curious to see how Milrow pans out in Seattle. And then I'm trying to remember where Cam Ewers went.
Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, where did he end up going? I'm trying to look for him right now because he went late.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was late. It was like the 7th round.
Man, hold on. I'm going to have to look this up now.
While
Because he's one.
while you're saying that, I'm just throwing a nugget. I think the best and I'm not a Jalen Milrow fan. I did fall in love with him more through the draft process because I think he's probably going to get the fair shot to be a NFL starter in the future one day. Because he's going to get to play behind Sam Darnold for 1 to 2 years, not have any pressure on him, get to learn. But I guarantee you, he's going to have some packages this year, like a Wildcat package or something, because you can't keep 4-3 on the sideline. And so he's going to get his feet wet, getting some plays underneath the belt. And I think good for him because you see all these GMs and former GMs and coaches say like Anthony Richardson probably should have went back to school for another year or gotten to sit behind another guy another year to be able to learn and mature. And Jalen Milrow is going to actually get that opportunity if Sam Darnold doesn't have some crazy injury, which I hope he doesn't, because I want to see Sam Darnold do good for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But go ahead and yours.
Yeah, so he ended up going to the Dolphins.
Okay.
Yeah, 231st overall, and I'm actually finding some pretty wild stories. Apparently, his agent called about half the league trying to figure out why Quinn Ewers slid, and the rebuttals that he got were they thought he was a 3rd or 4th round pick, but too big of a name to be a clipboard holder. Yeah, so
he kind of got the Shador treatment.
Kind of got the Shador treatment, so that's going to be interesting, especially with the CTE history with old Tua Tagovailoa. And I think he could fit into that offense pretty well.
That's an offense because they don't throw the ball down the field a ton. Even though Quinn Ewers actually has a pretty good. Quinn Ewers reminds me when I watch him play, he's like Baker Mayfield without the accuracy.
Yes.
Same build, same athleticism, same arm strength, just not the same accuracy. But
if you remember, Baker had trouble with that accuracy initially out of college.
Yeah, but he didn't have it in college.
No, he did not have it in college. You're correct.
So that's just more I was alluded to watching him play at Texas and Oklahoma. But the thing about Quinn is he did get to play in a lot of high leverage, important games, and that experience is invaluable because playing against your Georgias and your Texases and your Alabamas week to week, and then in the SEC championship game and then the playoffs, like that experience matters. Whether he came up short or shrunk or not, because you at least have the experience to be able to grow from versus not knowing what you could do with it at all. And that offense is very friendly, even with Tyreek still being there, but they still got Jalen Waddle and who knows if they have that tight end. But another thing about that offense is I've seen a couple different fantasy draft boards, and 2 out of the 3 had Devon Achane as the number 1 running back going into the season this year. Because they think he's going to have at least one more bounce back, like 1,400 yards from scrimmage a year, but they think he's going to lead the league in touchdowns again. Which I mean, it's very plausible
Oh yeah,
in that division, the way they play and how offensive heavy they are. Like they're gonna have to score a ton of points because they're gonna have a bad defense again.
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, good job, brother. I don't think we have much more to try to get through, but that's still. I mean, we've been at it over an hour already. It was a good show, and it was a little bit change of pace. It's kind of being like kind of the dead part. It's not the dead part of the year because we got NBA playoffs. Baseball is like really starting to turn up the heat, but the NFL is kind of in no man's land right now.
Right.
But it's good because I think we're gonna have a lot of good second round matchups. I don't Other than the Celtics and Knicks, I don't think there's going to be any sweeps in the second round. Most of these should go at least 6 games. So I think that's going to be good for viewers. And I think most of these games should be close outside of maybe that Clippers and Knicks, Clippers and, no, sorry, Clippers, that Celtics and Knicks series. So I'm looking forward to see how this week goes. Got a couple games, one game 7 tonight, a game 1 tonight. So it's been fun. Hope you have a good week and probably see you hopefully on Thursday to record for next week's show. So it'll probably be pretty basketball heavy and baseball heavy this week because I don't see a ton of football news coming out.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of rookie training camp weeks, and that's never really nothing noteworthy. So thank y'all for tuning in, and we will see y'all next time. Y'all have a good and a blessed week.
Peace.